Hello, my friends. Welcome again to another session of Emotional Café. My name is Xiomara Mayo Ingram, and as every Thursday, I'm going to be here talking tonight about codependency, an amazing topic that somehow affects us all. And as usual, go ahead, grab your coffee, your hot chocolate, maybe tea. I got my coffee right here, so I'm going to put it aside. I was sipping as I was waiting for you. But anyway, as usual, I want to be able to give you the general reminders for this week. The first one is to remind you that when you go to our Emotional Cafe site, the right column, you're going to be able to find where to subscribe for the newsletter. This is really important because we got the newsletter ready to be mailed to you, but we need you to confirm that you want to receive this mail. It's not going to go to your spam unless you say that you really want to receive this, and it's going to help you continue getting the newsletter. We remind you that at any time you can unsubscribe, that you're not going to be getting any kind of advertising or commercial advertising from other products or anything. It's only going to be pure Emotional Cafe content put together for you, and that once you get the email that confirm your subscription to the newsletter, you can you need to opt out and click the link to make sure that you are confirming that you want to continue receiving it. We also remind you that we are very respectful of your privacy, so none of your personal information is going to be given, it's going to be shared with anybody else, so just feel free. You only need to confirm your email and we will take care of you getting your newsletter. We are very satisfied with the results of our new first newsletter of the year, and it's going to be based on change. So I promise that you're gonna love it. So I really hope that you click on the right column of our Emotional Cafe site and subscribe to the newsletter so you can get yours. Also to remind you that also in our site you can have access to previous sessions. If you haven't been able to see some of the other sessions live, you can just go back to the videos. I always recommend that you take your journal with you or a notebook, and you can take notes on those important recommendations that we usually give. Also, you're gonna find some articles every week. We try to post a new article for you, a new blog. So feel free to just go grab your coffee, your cup of tea or chocolate, and just enjoy. Remember that this is your virtual platform. This is for you. This is to help you become a better you, to accomplish everything you want in life, and to pretty much have the life that you've always wanted for you. You are responsible for that, so we're going to help you get there. And as much as we've seen changes transform our lives and go from ordinary to extraordinary, we can help you as well. So I want to welcome those that are joining us for the very first time. The way that it goes is that you can interact with me via chat. The chat is on, and you just feel free to ask any question as I go through with the topic. Tonight, as I said, it's going to be codependency. I usually start with the definitions, and then I go getting a little bit deep into the topic, and I always end up the session with some recommendations, some suggestions to help you deal with whatever issue we've been addressing. So just feel free to ask your question, and it doesn't matter, I might go off and stop the topic for a moment in order to answer your question, but this is what Emotional Cafe is about. When you get the opportunity to see it live, you get to interact, you get to have access to the coach, and I'll get to answer your questions. So again, welcome and thanks for joining us. Now, let's start with what codependency means. Some people tend to relate this topic to addiction, and it is extremely important because even though it's the first spectrum in which codependency, the word, was used to refer to those family members related to some people that were suffering from addiction or alcoholism, the term codependency, it's way much wider now, and it's related to people depending of people. And that's what we're going to be seeing. But let me start with some of the definitions so you have an idea of what's really the term codependency means. One of the definitions that I found for you tonight says that it refers to people typically overly involved with the other person and the person's problematic behavior, sometimes even to the other's detriment. And I think this is the key to why I chose this session tonight. The fact that we sometimes get to be codependent. We sometimes don't even notice our codependent patterns, and all of a sudden we're overly involved with someone to the point that we stop taking care of ourselves. And that's what codependency is about. So the main goal of tonight's session is pretty much that we get to identify those patterns, those specific behaviors, and that we learn to cope and maintain our codependency patterns aside in order to be involved in healthy relationships. This is what our session is about. Another definition says that codependent person becomes so emotionally involved that most of the times ends up enabling results. And this really means that without wanting it, without intention, we end up helping the other person to continue with whatever problematic behavior is having or showing. So if it's an addict, we're enabling the situation for them to continue using and abusing the substance that they're using. If it's someone that is irresponsible, doesn't take responsibility, then we're enabling that person to continue with the irresponsible pattern. So pretty much that's what this definition establishes, that we end up enabling a system that allows this other person that we are so emotionally involved with continue doing their wrongdoings. Whatever they're doing wrong, whatever they're doing that is affecting us, we are enabling the system for them to continue doing that. Another definition for codependent relationships says that these are the type of dysfunctional helping relationships where one person supports or enables another person's addiction, poor mental health, immaturity, irresponsibility, or underachievement. As you can tell, we're not talking about addiction only. We're talking about any dysfunctional behavior, irresponsibility, immaturity, any behavior in which the person as an adult is not taking full responsibility of their choices and their actions, and therefore we are involved with them and we continue in that relationship without any change. It is also an emotional and behavioral condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship. So here it's showing how codependence affects us in a way that does not let us be in a healthy relationship. It doesn't let us enjoy satisfactory relationships because it's a total dysfunctional interaction that we get to have with the other person. It is also known as relationship addiction. And again, I'm using the term addiction to relate to the relationship, not to using at all. So again, codependence is about people needing people. It's about people being addicted to people to the point that they often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided, emotionally destructive, and toxic or abusive. Codependency also means that we sacrifice our own needs in order to take care of someone else's needs without even considering our own. So it's usually a term that, as I told you before, it started for defining those people involved with alcoholics and addicts, but as we start seeing other type of dysfunctional behaviors, we start seeing more codependence to their co-workers, to their neighbors, to friends. I've had the opportunity to work with some people and their codependence issues were with the specific friends to the point that they were showing withdrawal symptoms because this person has not called me today and it's just a simple friend. So that's what codependency is about. Now, some professionals don't consider codependency a disease. I do. I agree with some professionals that really consider codependency and a disease as much as addiction. And I'm going to tell you why. There's specific things why as I have also worked with addicts in recovery and people in interventions and all that kind of situations, I can see the pattern in the codependent as well as in the addict. And this is the reason why I consider it myself, along with other mental health professionals, disease. It is a progressive condition. The more intensity and drama that you get to have with the interaction that you're having within the relationship, the more codependency patterns you're going to be having. The more intensity, the more yelling, the more fighting, the more victimization, the more intensity in your emotions is going to be showing. So it's progressive. So you can start with a little bit of codependent behavior, and all of a sudden you are totally, fully covered by the codependency to a point that you don't know where you end and the other person start. You don't know how it's affecting you, and you don't even realize that you're not taking care of yourself anymore. It is also a self-destructive behavior because it's totally dysfunctional. Sometimes you're putting up with an abusive relationship. Sometimes you're putting up with toxic behavior. Sometimes you're there and you don't realize that what you're doing, you are decreasing your self-esteem, you are feeling yourself lower and lower, you are not taking full responsibility of yourself. So all these are self-destructive behaviors, and they are going to have a negative impact in your life. Also, another reason why I consider it a disease is because it causes so much pain. Let me tell you this. Codependents, they feel their life is so miserable and they cannot see the end of the tunnel. That blind they get, that overwhelmed by the situation they get. So sometimes, and I tell you from my own experience, because as I stated before, at one point or another, we've all have become codependent of someone. But I can tell you, when you're there, and this I'm speaking on my own experience, you do suffer. You feel the pain. You don't imagine how you're going to be able to live your life without this specific person, this specific dynamic, this specific interaction or relationship, to the point that you feel totally lost, and that causes pain. Also stop us from being happy, satisfied with ourselves and at peace, and we even get to feel that distress and even some physiological needs and signs of disease. People get sick. People get so stressed that they get sick. And the same thing happens with codependence. Sometimes I've had family members coming to work with me to the point that they're not eating appropriately, they are starting to have issues, they're having migraines, they're having all kinds of other symptoms, and all this is related to their codependency. So that's why I consider it myself a disease as much as an addiction. And sometimes when I'm working, especially when I'm working with a group of women, this is something that I address. It's being addicted to relationships, it's being addicted to someone else in order for you to feel that you are living your life. But it has to be with this specific relationship or this specific person. And to break that pattern, let me tell you, it takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of work from them in order to break the pattern of codependency. I believe that the fact that it's not a substance makes it harder for them to actually accept that they need help, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes it's so hard for them to recover from the codependency. Now, some possible factors you usually ask, where does that come from, Xiomara? How come acting like this if I never acted like that? There are specifics that has been considered possible factors for you to become codependent. And one important thing is that usually the pattern of codependency, you see it in your adult life. So even if you have been affected in your childhood, you usually will see your codependency in your interaction as an adult, in your relationship, when you get a significant other, when you get married, when you have a relationship, when you have a couple, then that's when you actually start showing those signs of codependency. But some of the possible factors, the most common ones, are some form of abuse. We've talked about abuse when you're a kid. It can be physical or emotional abuse. It can be verbal. It can be sexual. It doesn't matter. Any form of abuse will trigger in you later on some codependent patterns. Some physical neglect or abandonment, one or both of your parents, maybe someone that was very important. Maybe you were raised by your grandmother, for instance. Then if that person dies or that person moves away, that might also feel for you inside your mind as an abandonment, or maybe they're there but they're not taking care of you. So this is called emotional neglect or abandonment, and it can also be from either one of your parents or both, or that important person that was raising you, that was really important in your life. Then again, that's when you start having this huge void inside of you that you feel that someone else needs to fill in. So that's usually when it comes from. Sometimes we've seen families with suffering, one of the members is suffering from some mental issues, maybe a bipolar, maybe some sort of any mental disease, and then everybody's affected by it, but no one talks about it. Then these kids that are surrounded by this environment are very possible codependence later on in life. Same thing happens when you grow up in a family where there's some sort of addiction. Maybe someone's gambling, maybe someone's drinking, maybe someone's using, and everybody's trying to keep a normal life and nobody talks about it, but everybody knows that this is happening. Then you grow up and you tend to kind of be overly protected, or you get overly involved. You try to control others because you have all these patterns that didn't make any sense in your mind of why things were not changed. So you have this need to change, but you always put the spotlight to the outside. You always put the spotlight to someone else. So that's also some common factors that can and if it's your case, it's important that you know that there's help. These are patterns that once you identify them, you can actually break them. But you need to be aware that this happened to you. Sometimes I have worked with people that they come from a father who used to drink or was an addict or a gambler, and it's just amazing how they think they were not affected by those experiences in their childhood. And they said, you know, they come to me because they're having problems in their current relationship with their spouse, and then they're talking about this person, and it's usually someone that is not openly willing to make changes, or is someone that is also an alcoholic, or someone that is an addict, and they're just talking about they don't know how they could end up with this specific person. And then you start talking about, tell me about your childhood, tell me about your father, tell me about your mother, and it's just amazing how they all usually have the parent that was an addict or an alcoholic, or you know, any form of addiction, and they immediately say, but that didn't affect me. And it's just amazing because they are just repeating the same pattern that they saw when they were kids, but they are trying to make something different. So they're repeating the pattern, they're repeating the situation, trying to change it as an adult. It's something as an inconclusive issue from the past, and it's just amazing how you have to make them understand and help them understand and identify how they bring all this pain and all this shame and all this guilt and all these things in their mind that they couldn't understand at that early age, in order to resolve them as adults, for them to be able to change the dynamic with their spouses. So yes, if you grew up in an environment like that, if you find yourself that you're getting overly involved with someone, even with your friends, to the point that you want to control them, you want to tell them what to do, you want to change them, you always have to have the final word on what they say or what they do, just sit back and consider that you might be a codependent, and The most important thing is when you identify what you are, then you can make the changes. So some common types of codependency that we can see in our everyday relationships: when you're in a relationship with an addict or an alcoholic, when you are in a toxic relationship, abusive, destructive, someone that you're always after that person, but that person is not showing you the same love and respect that you're probably giving. There's some codependence to a daughter, some codependence to a son, parents that don't let their kids grow and assume responsibility. That's a problem. That is a problem. Then there's also some codependence to the parents, people that has grown up and instead of developing their own personal project in their lives, they're still taking care of their parents because at some point they assume that they are in charge of the parenting role instead of their parents being their parents. And this, it's very common in children of alcoholic and addicts. And also we can be codependent to a friend and just depend on this friend or need this friend's validation in order to feel better about ourselves. Those are the most common ones that we get to see. Now, how can I know if I am a codependent? There are specific characteristics and signs that most codependents show, and I'm going to be telling you some. And again, it's not a matter of you having them all or having 3 or having 5. It depends. At some point you can have all of them, at some points you can have only one of them, but just listen to these specific characteristics or signs of codependency and just be open to identify if sometimes you are falling into these patterns. People pleasing. Those people that are always trying to please others, always thinking about how to accommodate other people instead of considering their own accommodation, to a point that they sacrifice themselves and they consider that an honorful, a very honorable thing to do. So if you're a people pleaser, it might be that it's not only that you enjoy pleasing others, but maybe that there's a codependent pattern that you're following. Dysfunctional communication. Usually codependents don't dare to say what they're thinking. If they say it and someone else is not agreeing, they will immediately rearrange what they said because they really need that validation. They really need the other people to like them. So they're so afraid to be truthful because they feel that if they say exactly what they think or what they feel, the other person won't like them or stop loving them or will abandon them. So that's a very common characteristic. Low self-esteem. Last week we were talking about self-esteem and all the different signs and all the different ways that we can manifest our low self-esteem, but it's usually just the fact that you are feeling that you're not good enough. You're always comparing to other people and you hold on to these specific people because you feel that you're someone or that you're better just because you're hanging out with them or because you are in a relationship with them. Dependency, but in a very negative way, that codependents need other people to make them feel okay, to make them feel good about themselves, to the point that they will stay in a relationship, even if it's an abusive relationship, even if they're not happy. Sometimes you see them suffering so much, but yet they stay in that relationship. They don't dare to move away from there. They're too afraid of moving. And when they do, usually if they are not aware of their behavior, if they are not aware of their pattern, they will end up jumping into another relationship really quick because they cannot be alone. They need someone making them feel better, making them feel okay. Poor boundaries. Codependents, they don't know how to set boundaries to themselves or to others, to the point that they have everything blurry. They won't apply any boundaries to their money, to their behavior, to their belongings, nothing. So they always feel that someone else is somehow invading them, but they don't know how to stop that behavior. So usually sometimes when I get to work with codependents, they come to the session and they are talking nonstop and whining about what this other person did or what this other person was supposed to do and didn't do. And when you tell them, okay, let's set some boundaries. Let's set some boundaries for you, what you're not going to do and what you need to do. It's just amazing how they try to avoid looking at themselves and continue looking at the behavior out of them. This other person took my money, this other person took this thing, and my friend always comes and take my clothes and I don't like it that she takes it, even the ones that I haven't worn, but they take it and I'm upset. Okay, have you told them? No, but I don't know how she's gonna take it. Okay, you gotta tell her. And you see this struggle back and forth, and it's so hard for them, and they will, rather than set boundaries, they'll put that one aside and will come with a different issue, and it's the same thing over and over, not being able to set boundaries. Reactivity, it's a consequence of not having boundaries. They're always defensive about everything. They're always aggressive about, what are you doing? What did you do? What do you think? Because they have this reactivity inside of them, because since they don't set any boundaries, whatever the other person does, they're always ready to attack and ready to whine, because they don't know how to deal with their own emotions. So sometimes they think that setting a boundary is screaming or yelling or having a huge fight, and this is not what boundaries are about, and we're going to see that a little bit later as I continue with the codependency topic. But it's just amazing how they react. They don't think about consequences. They don't think in, with a cold mind, what I need to do, what the other person would do, what I'm gonna say. They just simply react. Denial. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Something is happening right in front of my eyes, but when I am under my codependence pattern, I just look away. I know something is wrong. I can feel it in my gut feeling. I am seeing the signs everywhere, and yet I refuse to believe it. Denial. I don't want to believe that is happening. I don't want to believe this is going on. I don't want that what I'm suspecting is actually the truth. So by ignoring it, I have this false illusion that it's going to vanish, that it's not going to happen, or if it was happening, it's going to stop by itself without me having to do any confrontation, having to assume responsibility on how I feel about it. So this denial, it's huge, because this is what continues happening on and on in abusive relationship. When we see domestic violence, it's just amazing sometimes how the person feels that if they don't say anything, if they don't talk about it, if they just try to do things differently, it won't continue happening. And it's just amazing because you see it over and over, constantly going on. So they deny their feelings, they deny that they're upset, they deny that this is affecting me, in order to try to pretend that this is not really happening. Caretaking. That's another one that is so of the codependence. They feel that they have to take care of someone else, and then they feel trapped. Then they feel that their needs are not being met, they're not being satisfied with the relationship, but they always have to take care of this other person, because if I don't take care of this other person, he or she won't do what she's supposed to do or what he's supposed to do. And over they continue in this pattern, trying to take care. Now, what is really sad is that sometimes they have the idea that if they do more and they take care of this person, they're going to feel more loved, or the person's gonna need them more. And again, it's all in their minds. That's why I was telling you before, I think it's a disease, because the way that the thoughts are totally in such distortion that they cannot see clearly what's going on, and they cannot see objectively what I'm doing here and what this other person is doing to me or not doing to me. Is just a sign that is a disease, that they cannot think clearly. So taking care makes them feel that they are needed, and somehow that maybe they'll be getting the love that they are so longing for. Control, huge issue for the codependents. They want to control everything. They want to control what you feel. They want to control how you behave. They want to control how you act. They want to control your choices. They want to control your consequences. It's just amazing, to the point that they lose total control of their own lives in order to try to control someone else. And again, this is one of the reasons that the whole dynamic, the whole interaction in a relationship gets so damaged, because you are not letting the other person be themselves. So control is a huge issue. It's probably one of the most common that all codependents show, that need to control. And finally, the last one that I have for you is obsessions. It's just amazing the time that a codependent spends thinking about the other person, thinking about the relationship, thinking about what he does or he doesn't, thinking about what she did or she didn't. Amazingly being obsessed about the person or the relationship. And again, that's the essence of codependency, that obsession with that other person or the relationship itself. So those are, I'm going to say them really quick: people pleasing, dysfunctional communication, low self-esteem, dependency, poor boundaries, reactivity, denial, caretaking, control, and obsessions are the main, most common signs, characteristics of codependence. Now, there's also another important triangle that we need to look at when we're talking about codependency, and it's the codependency roles triangle. Codependents go from being victims to being the rescuers to being the persecutors. Victims because they feel that by being submissive and victimizing themselves, the other person is going to feel sorry for them and is going to change their behavior. Rescuer because when the person is in problems, they go to the rescue, making sure that the person knows how much I did for you, how much I've done for you, in a way for the other person to feel that they owe us something. Persecutor because since you don't end up doing what I want you to do, I end up chasing after you, I end up going after you, I end up trying to find out what is it that you're doing and make you feel guilty about it. So I get upset, you come home, and I have my face that shows you that I'm not happy with you, because definitely I am just trying to push you to change that behavior. So usually, more or less, the triangle will go from, I cannot believe he's done this to me, victim, to, what do you need? You need to pay that? I'll give you the money so you can pay it. You don't need to be in this situation. Rescuer, to, because you don't appreciate what I do. And with everything that I've done for you, you know how you can do that? Wait until you lose me. That's when you're going to realize. Persecutor. I get to feel safe by passively aggressive hurting other people. Here's the question. How can I know if I am a codependent? And what can I do if I identify that I am in a toxic relationship but I have kids with him? Okay. When you are in a relationship with someone, one of the things that I talk in one of the sessions, and hopefully you'll have the chance to go back to the relationship topic that I did at the beginning of Emotional Café. We talk about relationship being something that two people want. Two people work together for the relationship to work. It takes two to make it work. It takes two to give each other love, to give each other respect, to give each other attention. It's not only one person giving all the love, one person giving all the respect, one person giving all the attention. No, it has to be both people doing it together, knowing that this relationship depends on both of us, being willing, both of them, to make it work. Now, if you are in a relationship in which you find yourself doing everything to make it work, but the other person is not doing his part or her part to make it work. If you find yourself being abused, being disrespected, being mistreated by your spouse. If you find yourself feeling so low about yourself to the point that you don't feel that you're valuable, that you don't feel good enough, then I am sorry, but I have to tell you that you are a codependent in a very toxic relationship. Now, the second question that you ask is, what can you do when you identify this if you have kids with your spouse? I never, when I work with people that come to work with me, say, you got to leave that person right away. Usually we try to see and evaluate if this relationship can be saved. But again, it takes your effort and the other person's effort. It takes both of you to want to make it work. So once I invite the other person to come to session as well, if the other person is not coming, if the other person is not showing their willingness to make it work, that's the cue to know that this person will have to start working towards becoming stronger, increasing their self-esteem in order to make a decision that is their best. I cannot make that decision for you, but by helping you learn to love yourself, by helping you see what a valuable person you are, you will be able to make the decision that is best for you. Sometimes, I have to say, as the person is working with themselves, as the person is working with herself or himself, the spouse kind of notice something it's odd, because this person is not always on top of me, like usually on my back. So they start seeing some changes in the dynamics. Some of them will say, I want help. I want to be able to go and I want us to work our relationship. In other occasions, people have decided to just, end the relationship. Again, when we're having domestic violence and some physical abuse, we have to consider the integrity, the safety of the person involved. So there are many issues that we take into consideration when we are working with this type of case. But I want to tell you, the person that actually asked the questions, there's a way. Recovery is possible for you, and as you find your own recovery, you're going to be able to find your sense of peace, your sense of direction, and you're going to be able to make the best decision for you and for your kids. Because sometimes codependents tends to think that they are going to stay in a relationship no matter how abusive or toxic or destructive it is for their kids. And let me tell you something, those are the same kids that when they grow up, they're going to continue repeating the same pattern unless you teach them differently, unless you become healthy and you model for them what being healthy and being in a healthy relationship is about. They're going to end up being very, very miserable as much as you are being today. So it's better that you think what's best for you and for your kids, because maybe by choosing to walk out of that relationship and get the professional help you need, you're going to be not only finding your own recovery, but helping your kids to recover. So take that into consideration. You don't have to make up your decision tonight. You don't have to end up the emotional cafe session and said, I'm leaving him or I'm leaving her. These are things that you need to think through and that you need to work with yourself in order to become stronger and in order to make the right decision. The right decision will imply that regardless how much it hurts, you're going to be able to stick to the commitment with yourself. That's what this is about, making a commitment with yourself of what you deserve, of the kind of life you want, and to be happy. That's what your kids really want. Probably even much more than having the parents together. And again, I'm not pro separated parents. I'm not against trying to save the relationship, but I am very aware that it takes two to make it work. So just keep that in mind. It's not only up to you, and that's usually what codependents feel, that it's their responsibility to make it work. You cannot make it work alone. It needs the two of you to make it work. Okay, let's continue. I have some questions here, and I think they're going to be so appropriate for this person. Questions to reflect on in order to consider some changes. Visualize yourself in a healthy relationship in which your needs are satisfied. How will it be? Is it a type of relationship that you're in tonight? What is stopping you from having such relationship? What is your responsibility in a dysfunctional dynamic with your spouse? Do you see any resemblance between your relationship dynamics and those that you experienced when you were a little kid, maybe in your primary family? How is your self-esteem? How do you talk to yourself? How do you see yourself? How much longer will you be unhappy with your life the way it is and stand still? These are important questions to ask ourselves as we learn more about codependency, because again, it's up to you what you want to do when you figure out if you are a codependent and that you can have a different type of life. Now, as I said before, recovery, it's possible. And there's some steps to recovery from codependency. But before I tell you the steps to recover, I want to tell you some of the possible obstacles that you're going to find when you're trying to start the path of recovery. Number one is going to be the anxiety. We come from so much pain and we come from all this suffering and being so miserable that we want results and we want them fast. It's not realistic. Just think about all the years if it has taken for you to be where you are at. You cannot just change all that overnight. It takes time. So keep an eye on the anxiety level when you want to see results and you start getting, this is not working for me because I'm not seeing the results that I want. Be patient, because it's gonna take a little time before you actually start seeing the results that you wish. But I guarantee that if you stick to the recovery, you're gonna be able to enjoy the results. The second one is the lack of continuity, the lack of self-discipline. People give up. People start doing what they are told they need to do in order to improve, and they start saying, I can't do this. I can't. I just can't. And they give up and they go back to the old patterns because of the lack of continuity. Remember, you need self-discipline because you are acting in a totally different way. You are breaking your behavior pattern and you're starting to add new behaviors to your life, and they are new. You don't feel comfortable with the new stuff. You feel comfortable with what you already know, even if it's dysfunctional. So your instinct is going to be to try to go back to the old patterns. So you need that self-discipline and continuity to be able to enjoy the results you want. And the number 3 obstacle that you're going to find is your fear. The fear of life changing, the fear of life without this person or without this dynamic or without this relationship or without this or without that. The fear of the unknown. Just trust and be patient and be committed, and you're going to be able to see it's a process. It's not an event. It's not a place that you get and you went and have a fest and leave. No, this is a process. It takes actions one after the other for you to be able to see results. Now, let's talk about how to recover from codependency. That was one of the questions. If I am a codependent, what can I do? How can I recover? Well, there are certain steps to take that are very, very important. As much as the alcoholic and the addict needs a treatment and they need a recovery process, so does the codependent, because again, we're changing behaviors, we're changing attitudes, we're changing dynamics. So you need a recovery process. And these are the steps for you to recover. The first step is seeking help. seeking and finding help. It doesn't matter what kind of help. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's emotional cafe, maybe it's a session with the life coach, maybe it's a decision to go and find professional help. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's the first step. Understanding, accepting I need help, and seeking help, starting putting actions to get the help I need. The second step is to make your recovery process your priority. This needs to be your priority. You need to commit to it and be loyal to your commitment. Be loyal to yourself. Be loyal to that idea of life that you want, that is satisfactory for you. You have to visualize it. You have to imagine it in your mind, and then be loyal to it. Be committed to pursue it. The third step, go to a codependent group. It's totally free. These are people that have already acknowledged that they are codependents. They get together in a group. It's usually called CODA, C-O-D-A, Codependent Anonymous, and they are a support group. It's totally free. You can Google it. You can find the ones that are near you, and just going and listening to other people talking about the same issues that have been part of your life for so long, it's huge. Listening to how they have improved, listening to how they have changed their patterns will give you so much hope, because you're gonna feel that you can do this too. So getting that support group, it's a very huge thing. Number 4, the fourth step is to nurture or develop your spiritual life. We always talk about believing in something that is bigger than you, something that you can hold on to, something that you can feel that it will give you strength. Particularly, I have been honest to say that I believe in a higher power. For me, it's God, but I don't mind what you believe in, but just hold on to a belief. We human beings need to believe in something bigger than us. So nurture that spiritual side of you, nurture your soul, nurture your mind, and that's gonna help you feel that you have some inner strength helping you along the way. The fifth step is stop trying to control and let it go. Let it go. The only way that you can change something is when you look at yourself. You are the only person you can actually change. It's you. So stop trying to control others. Stop trying to control others' situations. Stop trying to change other people. You can't. I have another question here. Do you work with individuals privately on codependency issues? As a matter of fact, I do. And again, as a life coach in Emotional Cafe, you can get the information that you need if you want individual sessions with me. I always encourage the people that are Emotional Cafe subscribers to also email me with their issues, with their situations, and I'll personally will email them back to you, will give you the feedback that you might need. Because part of why Emotional Cafe it's open, it's because we want to be able to offer you some assistance and support in a more affordable way. And we understand that sometimes individual sessions can be hard to, to schedule them, or maybe the financial resource is an issue, but I try to accommodate everybody, and I do have individuals that work with their main issue being codependency. I have had some in relationships, and I've had some struggling with friends issues, just simply needing that friend validation and not getting enough attention from their friends, and therefore their self-esteem suffers. So answering your question, yes, I do. And again, just feel free to contact me or send me your email with what your situation is, and I will try to give you the feedback the best I possibly can. The sixth step. Remember, we're doing the steps to recovery from codependency. Number 6, learn not to respond to any provocation. Don't react. You have to start thinking. This was so hard for me when I was going through this, because I was so impulsive. I wouldn't stop and think first, and I have to learn to stop, to make that pause and think before reacting. And let me tell you this, at first I had to force myself, but once you make this a practice, it's just amazing how whatever's happening, you get to have this perspective from outside, because you're actually seeing it objectively. You're not just jumping and reacting to it. So just make that one of your boundaries today, to stop reacting and simply move back, think before you act. The seventh step is face your own problems. Put the spotlight on yourself. Face your problems. Do you really want to know what codependency is about? Not looking at yourself. You look at others because you don't want to look at yourself. You don't want to see your own problems. You don't want to see your own issues. That's why we're always trying to change someone else, when the truth is that there's so much that we need to change about ourselves. So stop putting the spotlight to the people surrounding you and put it on yourself. Face your own problems. That's the beginning of an amazing, incredible, better life. Taking care of what needs to be taken care of. Your own problems. Eighth step, identify and be willing to do what it takes to make the changes you need. That's huge. Because, I can say I'm a codependent, but I don't want to change anything. Really? Seriously? You're going to be stuck. You're going to continue with emotional stagnation. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to give yourself the life you deserve, to be better, to make the changes that you need to make. No one's going to make it for you. Ninth step. Nurture and improve your self-esteem. Your self-esteem has to be your best friend. You have to be thinking about how you talk to yourself, how you look at yourself in the mirror. I was mentioning, I think it was last week that I was mentioning that you need to look at yourself in the mirror. And again, I don't recommend you do anything that I haven't tried before. I stand up in front of the mirror and I said to myself, wow, you're looking good. You're a valuable person. You're a winner. We're going to do great things. It's amazing the life we're going to have. Because I have to say this to myself in order to believe it and in order to nurture my self-esteem. Because if I think about all the things that I need to do, I'll be so afraid to do them that I don't even think I'll get out of bed. So it's a total normal feeling. But you have to nurture your self-esteem when you don't feel that you can do it. You need to be that voice telling you, yes, if others have done it, I'm going to be able to do it too. I can tell you, when I started my recovery process, I was not so sure of what I wanted. But one thing I was sure of, I wanted what they were saying that they've gotten. I wanted what they reflected. I wanted the peace that they were showing. I wanted what they had. And I was willing to do whatever it took in order to have what they had. I didn't know what I wanted. So I held on to what they had. And I wanted that. And it's just amazing how along the way I went connecting with myself and finding out what I really wanted. And therefore, being willing to make whatever it took to make the changes that I needed to make is what has taken me to this amazing journey that I'm sharing with you, to the amazing life that I'm enjoying, because it's exactly the life that I wanted to have. And again, I have to be honest, I'm still making changes. And I have come to understand that probably my entire life I'll be making changes, because that's what life is about. But I tell you, it's worth it. Just give it a try. Give yourself the chance, and you're not going to regret it. I tell you from my own experience. If I could do it, if others could do it, you can do that too. 10th step. Help others with different need than yours. I don't like sending codependents to go help others because, again, we put the spotlight to other people. But it's just amazing when you do it social levels, such as helping the homeless, helping people that are in more needs than you. It helps you to kind of see that it's not so bad in your life, that you need to be grateful and feel that your life is not as bad as you think it is. It changes that perspective and gives you that gratitude sense inside that is so important when we are in this recovery process. Now, my final recommendations, because again, as the addicts and alcoholics needs to learn to battle their disease and learn knowing that that's what they are and making the changes to improve, same thing with codependence. We're always going to be codependents. The difference is that we get to manage our codependency patterns. We learn to live with our codependency kind of aside, knowing when it's coming out and putting it back, go back there. I don't need you. Because we learn to manage. We learn to accept that that's us and we cope with it. And as every session at the end, I like giving you some recommendations, handful recommendations that can help you, and in this case, to manage and control and take care of yourself as you put aside your codependency. My first recommendation for you is to detachment. I know sometimes when I say detach, you probably think that you're not going to love that person anymore, or that you're not going to have that person in your life. It simply means to stop suffering. You need to detach from the drama. And sometimes we have to admit that we like the drama. You need to detach. You need to say, you know what, I'm just not getting into this fight. I'm just not getting in the drama. I'm going to live and let live. I'm going to let other people manage themselves. I'm going to let them make their own choices. I'm just not going to be part of it anymore. That's detachment. Stop reacting. Put the attention back to you. Every time you react is because you're defensive, you're feeling attacked. Stop reacting. Put the spotlight on you. Why am I reacting like this? Why is this bothering me so much? Why is this affecting me the way it's affecting me? Set yourself free. I know that we say don't worry and you think, oh yeah, it's easier said than done. But you know what? Sometimes the worst scenario has only happened in your mind. Sometimes you're so afraid of what's going to happen and none of that has happened. Stop worrying about things that hasn't happened. Stop being in the future, because then you're not enjoying the present. So set yourself free from those projections and live in the now, today. Start a romance with yourself, nurturing your mind and soul. Figure out things that you like to do that make you feel good. Try to work out, do exercise. Meditation is a great practice for some people. And again, whatever helps you feel much more at peace and much more connected with yourself, because that's what a romance with yourself is about. Loving yourself, pampering yourself, nurturing yourself. Acceptance is the key. Learn to accept. Accept that you cannot change anybody else. Accept yourself. You are the person that needs to make the changes. Assume responsibility of your feelings. Whatever you're feeling. Feelings are not good or bad. Feelings simply are. Whatever you're feeling, that's the way you're feeling. Accept it. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to deny it. Just feel it. Accept that's the way you feel. Set goals and commit to the actions that you need in order to accomplish those goals. That's huge for your self-esteem, even if it's something simple. I am struggling right now with simple goals that has to do with my health, my eating habits. And I tell you, today my goal was not to eat one of the donuts that they took to the office. Simple. I did it. Set a goal and put the actions together to accomplish that goal. You're going to feel great about yourself. Again, it doesn't have to be going and running in the Olympics. It can be something simple, but it just add one thing after the other. It's going to make you feel much better. Improve your communication with yourself and others. When you talk, express how you feel. Know that it's your feeling, your opinion. And when you talk to yourself, don't put yourself down. Don't talk negatively to you. Be positive. Give yourself lots of loving and encouraging words. Set your boundaries. If something is causing you pain, keep your distance. Keep your distance. Don't put yourself for others to hurt you. Just keep your distance. Take care of yourself, your image, your physical appearance. No matter how you feel, always try to, put up your best clothes and have a shower and put up a little bit of makeup. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, you feel like you did your best and that you're looking good. That also has a very positive impact psychologically in your mind. Don't kiss frogs expecting them to turn into prince or princess. If you are walking out of a relationship, don't rush into another one. You're not ready. You need time to heal. So don't go and start kissing frogs because you think you're going to be finding your Prince Charming. Stop relying on someone who's not reliable. You know if that person really wants to seek help for the two of you to make it work. If not, stop relying on someone who's not reliable. Learn to see people objectively. I always use the phrase, love them with eyes wide open. You know how they say that love is blind? You need to love them with eyes wide open. Learn to live and love. Nothing belongs to you, nothing and no one. So just think about your life. Think about what you want to do. Think about yourself. Codependence no more what it really means is that you need to live your own life. I know that it's already time for us to finish, but I have to remind you, and this is what I want to finish with. You are responsible. You are responsible to identify your own needs and satisfy them. No one else is going to come satisfy them. You are responsible. You are responsible to solve your own problems. And if they cannot be solved, then accept they can be solved and change your attitude about them. Learn to live with them. But you are responsible. You're responsible for the choices that you make. You're responsible for what you give and what you accept to receive in a relationship or from others. You are responsible to set up goals and accomplish them. You are responsible to follow the actions that are going to take you closer to those goals. You are responsible to enjoy your life and be happy. No one else is going to come live your life for you. No one else is going to come make you happy. You are responsible to make yourself happy. You are responsible to love keeping your eyes open. And finally, you are responsible for what you do to others, but also you are responsible for what you allow others to do to you. No one does. You do. You are responsible. Thank you for a great session. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for joining me. I hope I can see you Thursday next week with an incredible subject. An incredible topic. My other self, anger. Those people dealing with anger issues, I'll see you next Thursday at 8. Enjoy the rest of the evening.